Hi, welcome back to Eatrigue. My name's Jessica and this is Prawn Cocktail Crisps. 20 different flavours of prawn cocktail crisps are sat in front of me right now, and I'm going to test every single one of them to find out which is the best. We have everything here from supermarket own brand through to Walkers. Then we've got some like luxury brands. We've got some stuff I've never even heard of. Who knew that there was so many different types of prawn cocktail? It's crazy. It's a very popular flavour here in the UK. I would say it's probably ranked maybe 3rd, 4th, maybe 5th most popular flavour in the UK. Behind the usuals like, you know, cheese and onion and salt and vinegar and just plain ready salted. It's definitely one of my favourite, and there are subtle differences in between all the different flavours, but I've never tasted them all side by side before, so I just want to find out which is the absolute best. So the prawn cocktail flavour itself is based on an actual prawn cocktail that you used to get in like, you know, sophisticated restaurants, but like back in like the 70s and 80s when prawns were a sophisticated thing. So it's basically very similar to this. All you get is lettuce, some sort of Mary Rose sauce or Thousand Island, sometimes called seafood sauce, and then just some prawns dangling around the edge, and it's actually quite nice. However, the flavour does tend to be just the Mary Rose sauce itself and not necessarily the prawn flavour as well, or even the lettuce. Every product here I'm going to score out of 10 based on my own personal preference in terms of flavour, but I'm also going to give it a second ranking out of 10 based on how well it resembles the actual flavour of an actual prawn cocktail, just to see whether it's attempted to resemble it or just sort of a close approximation. Okay, I'm hungry. Let's tuck in. So many packets of crisps here. I'm going to be eating crisps for weeks. Okay, let's start with the big player, shall we? Straight in with Walkers. So this is the regular fried Walkers crisps, although you can see it on the packet there, it says 45% less salt. So this has had like a bit of a recipe change in recent years. Obviously crisps aren't really the healthiest product in the world, so they're trying to make it slightly less bad for you. And it's hard to say they're healthy or healthier than they were, it's just less bad. So immediately you just get a massive hint of almost vinegariness. And the Mary Rose sauce does have a sort of vinegar undertone to it. Good flavour. Subtle at first, but then it sort of hits you with sort of a saltiness. It's quite nice. Very good flavour. There's a reason why Walkers are the market leaders in the UK. So I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10 for actual flavour. The Mary Rose sauce is quite punchy. Also quite well emulates that. So I'm going to give it maybe like a 7 out of 10 for replication. That's the name of the category I'm giving it. Replication. Okay, let's carry on with Walkers and go for their Walkers baked product. This is intended to be their healthier range, where the product itself is baked rather than fried. I think the flavour is very similar actually, or the smell. Although this has got a much more vinegary smell to it. So you see it's a different shape, kind of slightly ridged, but not quite. Good crunch. The flavour's a bit subtler. Still a bit of punch with the sort of vinegary acidity in there. But I think the Walker's baked range is pretty good in general, so I'm going to score it a 7 out of 10 for flavour. Replication is not quite as punchy, so I'm going to mark it down and give it a 5 out of 10. Let's stick with Walkers. Let's do all of those first and then move on to the others. So let's go for Walkers Max. So this is their product range where their flavours are just much, much stronger than you would normally expect in the crisps. We have several other products in this Max range, but this is actually spicy prawn cocktail. So it's got a picture of chilli on the front as well, so I'm expecting some heat in this. As you can see, they're ridged. In fact, look how long that crisp is. That is pretty big. It's almost as big as, it's almost like half the size of the packet. I think we're kind of going away from the prawn here. I'm just going for the chilli. That is pretty spicy. So for flavour, I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10 because I feel like it's trying to be spicy and just throwing a bit of prawn cocktail in there just to make something a bit different. Replication, very, very little in terms of actual replication, so I'm going to give it a bit of a 2 out of 10 for replication. Okay, next up, Walker's Sensation. Now this one doesn't actually claim to be a prawn cocktail, but what it does claim is king prawn and Mary Rose sauce, which are the elements of a prawn cocktail, but of course this is like the posh crisps. Pretty good smell. I'm going to test it against the regular Walkers. Okay, this has a slightly punchier smell. Completely different. There's a bit more tomatoey in there. and slightly fresher, which is very weird. Still a lot of acidity from the vinegary type stuff, but I quite like it. It's the sort of thing you can just keep eating and eating and eating. Flavour is definitely different to the regular Walkers, but I feel like it's just as good. So I'm going to also give that an 8 out of 10. Replication, that's pretty good as well. The regular Walkers gave a 7. I'm going to also give this a 7. So the rankings are identical to the regular Walkers, although the flavour is different, so take from that what you will. So that's all the regular Walkers done, but I've got 2 more Walkers products here, so I'm going to try Quavers next. I've not actually had Quavers since I was a child. It's such like a kid-friendly product, this little packet is like 16 grams, and it feels really light. There's only 84 calories in this whole packet, it says on the back here. So this is like a sort of puffed crisp, and yet end up with these sorts of little swirls, and they're sort of light and airy. Very, very subtle flavour in this. They probably toned it down because I feel Quavers are marketed towards children, so the flavour is probably subtler. There's probably less salt and stuff in here than the regular stuff. Per 100 grams is 1.84 grams of salt, whereas the regular one is 0.65, so there's actually more salt in the Quavers than in the regular Walkers. Was not expecting that. Because of the subtleness, I'm going to mark it down, so I'm going to give it like a 5 out of 10. Replication doesn't really taste like prawn cocktail, really. So I'm going to give it a 2 out of 10. Final Walkers product, Wotsits. Now this comes in 2 varieties. You've got the regular smaller Wotsits, but you also get these Wotsit Giants. I decided to only go for one of them because I feel like the flavour is going to be the same. And I just like this massive packet. Look at the size of these puffs. They are amazing. I feel like Wotsits are again marketed towards children, although I feel like Wotsits Giants are marketed towards adults for the more of that nostalgia factor. It's the kind of thing that just gets stuck in your teeth. Okay, it's quite a punchy flavour. A lot of acidity in there. That's the only one that I've actually had a physical reaction to with a flavour. It's pretty punchy. So for flavour, I'm actually going to give it an 8 out of 10. I really like it. Replication though, not quite as good. I'm going to give it a 5 out of 10. I'm going to move on to the supermarket own brands now. I've only got 3 here. I could have bought some more, but I kind of wanted to limit how many products I was buying. So I decided to only go for a few. So here I've got Morrisons, Aldi and Asda. Another reason why I decided to only buy a few is that typically own brand products tend to be made in the same factory and then they go to different supermarkets, but it's the exact same product. So there's the chance I'll get a replication and not realise. And we'll start with Morrisons. Now immediately I can just smell cooked crisps. It's almost like a slightly burnt flavour. I feel like I'm going to be tasting a lot more actual fried crisp in the flavour, so it's a lot sweeter than anything else I've had today. I feel like there's quite a bit of sugar in comparison to these ones. So again, if I just compare it to Walker's, the market leader, so per 100 grams this has 2 grams of sugar, and this one only has 1 gram. Interesting. I wonder if there's some artificial sweeteners in here as well. Yes. Flavour, I'm not really enjoying it. I've got to say, I'm going to give this a 2 out of 10. It's not quite 1 territory, but it's close. Replication, well, a prawn cocktail isn't sweet, so I'm going to have to give this a 1 out of 10 for replication. Okay, let's try Asda next. Okay, this has a completely different smell to the Morrisons ones. There's quite an acidic smell coming through, so let's give this a taste. That is actually quite sweetly sour, but it also has quite a lot of acidity undertone in there. In fact, it's not even an undertone, it's like front and centre. I am enjoying this better than Morrisons, but not quite as much. So I'm only going to give it 1 extra point, which gives it 3 points of flavour. Replication, again, there's too much sweetness in there, so just like the Morrisons, giving it a 1 out of 10. Finally, Aldi. Okay, that's better. That tastes very, very much like the Walker's ones, actually. That is so good. Lidl and Aldi, they surprise you sometimes, don't they? If you put this in front of me and told me it was Walker's, I'd be like, yeah, probably is. Done a good job in the flavour factory. So I'm going to have to give this an 8 out of 10 for flavour. It's amazing. Replication, again, very similar to Walker's. I think the crisps themselves are slightly overcooked and ever so slightly burnt. You know, that flavour you get sometimes. So I'll give it a 6 out of 10 for replication. But this is a very, very good product. Okay, we do have one more own brand product, which I didn't include in the others because this is Tesco Finest, so it's not like their standard. This is the posh one, so sort of competing against Walker's Sensations. And just like the Sensations, they've not called it prawn cocktail. but they have called it Prawn Mary Rose flavour. It's the posh ones. You don't want to call it prawn cocktail, right? If I was just to smell that without knowing what it was, I wouldn't say it was prawn cocktail. It doesn't quite smell right. But it's the flavour that counts, so that is pretty good. Also, this is the first product I've tasted that actually tastes a little bit of prawn. It's kind of like a fishy undertone in the flavour there. Like I said at the start, most prawn cocktails are actually based more on the sauce than the prawns. Yeah, this is pretty good. You know what? I think we've got our first 9. This is definitely a 9 out of 10 for flavour. In fact, replication, also, they've nailed it. I can't bring myself to give it a 10 though, but I'm definitely going to give it a 9. So, 9's all round for the Tesco finest. Okay, we've got several other brands here, but before we do that, I'm going to throw in the wild card. I found this when I was browsing through Home Bargains the other day, and this is prawn cocktail flavour party mix. So this is differently shaped potato products with a prawn cocktail flavour, and it's by a brand called Golden Cross, which I had never heard of. So soft. So it disappeared just like Quavers actually. Fairly subtle flavour. Bit of sweetness under there, I can taste some tomato. In fact, it's very strong of tomato, which is fine because Mary Rose sauce is a sort of tomato mayonnaise-y based sauce. In fact, a cheapest way of making it is just mixing ketchup with mayonnaise. So, but it's not an unpleasant flavour. But I am ranking it based on how much it tastes like what I would expect to be a prawn cocktail. So I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. Replication, I'm going to score it down. I'm going to give it like a 5 out of 10 for replication. Okay, now we're on to the remaining brands. Let's start with Discos actually. These are another staple when I was a kid. Biggest memory was that the flavour was so punchy. Not necessarily a prawn cocktail flavour. In fact, to be honest, I don't even remember the prawn cocktail Discos. For me, it was more about either the cheese and onion or the salt and vinegar. But I remember it just being packed full of flavour and just punches you in the face when you eat one. In fact, you know what? This reminds me of the seaside. It's almost got an air of fish and chips about it. Not much in the way of acidity, but it's quite nice. Relatively subtle flavour, which I don't mind in this because actually the flavour's pretty good. But I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10 for flavour. Replication isn't really Mary Rose sauce, but there is a slight fishiness in there. So I'm going to give it a 4 out of 10 for replication. Okay, now my wife's favourite, skips. These are probably the lightest packet on this table. 13.1 grams of skips in here. I think this is one of the only products that only comes in prawn cocktail. And the reason being that these are intended to look like sort of the tails of the prawn. So you would hope that they would actually get the flavour good, right? Okay, let's go. Nothing appears so quick I can even taste the flavour. Let's go for 2 at a time. Flavour is very subtle. Hardly any acidity, quite salty, and the product itself just disappears. Kind of feels like you haven't even eaten anything, which to me just kind of defeats the purpose of eating something because it makes you feel full. Flavour though, it's okay. It's alright. It's not the best, but it's not the worst either, so I'm going to give it a even 5 out of 10. Replication is kind of a bit too subtle, so I'm going to give it a 3 out of 10. McCoys. Now, you don't often see prawn cocktail McCoys. Now, the actual flavour here is sizzling king prawn. So again, I feel like they're going to have some spice in there, perhaps. As you can see, McCoys do a ridged product. And the smell isn't really standing out. For a product that claims to have full-on flavour, they've kind of missed the mark on this one, I feel. It's definitely a completely different flavour to any other product we've tasted today. Quite acidic, bit punchy, but I have tasted better today. They're not bad. I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. Replication, nothing like the original at all. So I'm going to give it a 2 out of 10. Okay, now on to Golden Wonder. This is a brand I'm quite familiar with because there used to be a Golden Wonder crisp factory in the town I grew up in. So we had these quite a lot. But to be honest, that was when I was a child. I don't really remember how these tasted. I was a child like 25 years ago, so quite a sweet flavour on there actually. And quite similar to the Morrisons ones in that respect. And I wasn't expecting that. In fact, I'm now wondering if maybe Golden Wonder make Morrisons crisps. Very punchy flavour, quite acidic, pretty good. I think it actually replicates the Mario Rose sauce quite well, but the overall flavour is a bit too sweet. So I'm going to give them 5 out of 10 for flavour, but replication is pretty good. I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. Okay, now we have 2 products from Seabrooks. One is their regular ridged prawn cocktail, and these ones are prawn cocktail rings. So flavour is possibly going to be the same on both of them, I feel, because it's the same brand. So again, as you can see, there's a ridged product. What the hell? That is such a fishy smell. I feel like I've just walked past some big fishmongers. There is a lot of fish flavour in there. Was not expecting that. But actually, the fish flavour replicates it really well, so I think it's going to score highly on that. But I'm trying to work out if the fish flavour is putting me off the overall product. Because I think it's just slightly too overwhelming. So I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10 for flavour. Replication though is getting a 9. Okay, Seabrooks rings. Yeah, it does have a different smell. This is more salty smell. Okay, so maybe they have used a different flavour profile. So this is a maize snack. It's a lot more subtler. Kind of sweet, a bit of salt. And weirdly, it tastes a bit stale. But I'm just checking the expiry date. It doesn't go off for another month, so I don't know if it's supposed to have that texture, but it definitely feels like they've been opened and left out for too long. So I'm going to give it a 3 out of 10 for flavour. Replication, it's not good either. A 2. Okay, I'm going for Pringles now. They've been staring at me all day. I love Pringles. I think one day I'm going to do an entire taste test of every single Pringles product. Sounds good to me. Punchy flavour, but there's not much acidity. They've punched me with something else in there. The mouthfeel of the product is just exactly as you expect from a Pringle. Slight undertone of tomato, but it's pretty good. So for flavour, I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. Replication, not quite there, but still pretty good, so a 6 out of 10. Proper Crisps. This is a brand that I'm not familiar with. I know they do popcorn as well, but I don't think I've ever had anything from the Proper brand. Okay, very subtle smell in there. I'm not gaining much from it. You can see they're a ridged product that was sort of curled over to sort of make a, almost like a scoop. It would probably be good for like a salsa or something like that. Alright, actually. The mouthfeel is something completely different. It's kind of a light snack. In terms of flavour, it's pretty subtle. There's a little bit of lingering something or other going on back there. I can't quite describe it. I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10 for flavour. Replication, again, because it's subtle, it's difficult to tell. So I'm going to give it a 4 out of 10. But overall, it's a pretty good product, and I would actually quite rate it quite highly as just a product. Tyrells. Now this is posh prawn cocktail flavour. So this isn't just like your bog standard, normal, pretended to be posh prawn cocktail. This is your actual posh prawn cocktail. And it's so posh, the only place I actually found this was in Waitrose. These are like hand-cooked kettle chips. Whoa, what is that little background flavour in there? Okay, this is where I check the ingredients to try and work out what I'm eating. This has brandy in it. What the hell? Okay, where's the brandy coming from? At what point does that enter the cooking process? That's just weird. Oh, do I give this a 10? Is this a perfect product? That's the question I'm wrestling with at the moment. You know what? You know, I think I am. I'm going to give this a 10. This is perfect prawn cocktail. In terms of replication as well, yeah. 10s all around for the Tyrells. Who would have thought that? Wow. And there's your winner. Tyrells wins the prawn cocktail battle. Second place goes to Tesco Finest. And joint third, we've got Aldi, Walkers and Walkers Sensations. That was quite an experience. I've discovered some great new products here. Those Proper Crisps are pretty good. I'm definitely going to be trying some other flavours of those. And I experienced so many different flavours even within this one flavour. It's crazy just how different they can be when they're exactly the same flavour, in theory. I'm now going to go lay on the couch and just finish this bag because, wow. I've been Jessica, this has been Eatrigue, you've been awesome. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.